We're here and back. Welcome into another episode of McKale Madness. It's your boy, Corey. Yeah, I always have to point the opposite direction of what and I'm Saul Bookman. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday evening in Tucson and in Phoenix, because I'm in Phoenix. Corey's down in Tucson. But it's also beautiful because the University of Arizona Wildcats, your beloved Arizona Wildcats, absolutely came out with a statement yesterday and showed the country a lot of what they got wrong before we even threw the ball up. And we're going to get into a lot of that on this show. But first, as always, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't with PHNX, and we sure would appreciate a nice little review after the episode if you like it on any of your podcast followings. So we appreciate that. But Corey, obviously we're going to get into the details of it, but overall, I mean, your main takeaway or feeling of what you saw last night in Vegas.
A lot of strange emotions last night. Emotions that I wasn't used to. Being a Dallas Cowboy fan, I was unfamiliar with satisfaction and being surprised and being pleased and being impressed. These emotions just took me over. I was sitting on the couch. I had the U of A game on the big screen. I had my Cowboys on the iPad, and I just couldn't believe. Well, actually, I could believe what I was seeing on the iPad, and I just focused on the big screen, man. That's really impressed by Arizona last night. Very impressed.
Yeah, no, it was a thorough. I don't know if you want to say it wasn't an ass kicking because it was a good competitive game from start to finish. But I like you was pleasantly surprised about numerous things, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the most obvious one, which was Koa Peat. Koa Peat. Listen, I saw him play in high school. I knew what he was capable of, but when we saw him in the exhibition, it did not seem like we were going to get what we got last night. It did not appear that he had. I was unfamiliar with the ratcheting up of game. Is basically what it was. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a combination of 4 steals and blocks. I mean, the kid was phenomenal, and he did it against one of the best front courts they're going to see this season, and certainly one of the best front courts in the country, in Condon and Chinelu, and then obviously Hauk. I just unbelievable performance by Koa Peat, and honestly, it shouldn't be a surprise. It really shouldn't.
No, and there's a lot of takeaways from that game. The first takeaway is this. I'll admit, I did not know or see Koa Peat starting at the 4. That's why Tommy Lloyd's the coach and not me. He's smarter than me when it comes to basketball. I tried to tell you last week. Well, you told me, but I can't gauge anything from the scrimmages and the exhibition games because they don't matter. But instantly, within a few minutes, I understood the strategy. Arizona was going to go to 3 big man rotation, and Koa Peat, it's always about matchups. He was quicker than the 4s and 5s for Florida. And I was at SEC Media Day 2 weeks ago down in Birmingham, and all I heard is it was the deepest league in the country. Florida was one of the top teams in the country, and by no question, Florida has the best front court in the country with all this height and experience. They are going to dominate college basketball and make sure Florida's back running towards a national championship. Koa Peat was an absolute mismatch for any of the fours that Florida had on the floor. They couldn't stay with him in terms of quickness. Every time he made his move and went to release the ball, he had a wide open look. So it was a mismatch problem for Florida. Having said that, the cat is out of the bag. Everybody knows if Koa Peat dropped 30 on Florida's front court, he will do the same to yours. There's not a power forward in the country or a 4 or 5 combo that's going to be better than what Koa Peat just put in that work on. So things are going to change for Arizona in the next coming weeks. People they're on notice now. Definitely surprised with what I saw from Koa Peat.
Yeah, I think one of those changes is you're going to see teams go a little bit more zone. I think is probably one of those changes because one of the things that Florida doesn't like to do much is go zone. And I was a little surprised that considering that Arizona had only taken like 6 threes in the game, that they didn't pack the paint a little bit more. They tried to towards us in the second half a little bit more to try to force them out of the paint, but I think that's one of the subtle adjustments that'll come from other teams when they scout Arizona. They're like, okay, we need to be a little bit more, focused on the interior and force them to shoot from the outside and prove to us that they can, in fact, beat us from the outside. And I think that's coming down the road. But for last night, there wasn't a single 4 or 5 out there at all that could guard Koa Peat whatsoever.
No.
Condon had trouble. He came out on the perimeter a couple times, and Koa's just too quick, and he's too good with his handle for Condon to even be a matchup problem for him. Everybody else, same thing. And so I really liked what I saw from him. I also think we didn't see the fadeaway jumper as much in the preseason. And it's not like a typical fadeaway. He likes to hit that baseline one, but it's just a subtle arc because he's not 6'10", he's 6'8", 6'9". And so that little bit of lean back is just enough to be able to get whatever he wants. Plus, he can jump out the gym. And I think that's the one thing that I think also surprised a lot of people. If you're not familiar with Koa Peat and you just see his size, you just assume that, he's just a big, lanky, big man. No, the kid's got hops. He showed it on that alley-oop dunk. In the pregame warm-ups, a lot of people don't get to see. He jumped and he dunked, and his head was above the rim with ease. Like the whole head. Like the kid is athletic as all hell. He could probably touch the top of the backboard if you asked him to. And so just a phenomenal performance by him. But that's just one aspect of many that happened last night. We'll go to the Go ahead, Corey.
And to wrap it up with Koa Peat at the 4 is a problem. He's a problem for everybody that Arizona is going to face, plain and simple. You talked about going zone. Zone is way more difficult to play than man-to-man. And with the transfer portal and kids' basketball IQs being in the crapper, there's not a lot of coaches that even can play zone. So people are going to have their hands full going forward with Arizona. But go ahead.
No, for sure. I think about teams like Houston, right? Houston loves to play man-to-man, but they are a smart, veteran-led team with a good program. That's the type of the team that will try to mix up the looks that Koa Peat will get and be a little bit problematic. But one of my other takeaways was that this team feels like they don't make a lot of stupid mistakes, right? They are very cerebral, or they think a little bit more about their action. They don't just react and then that's it, right? I thought Koa displayed that plenty of times last night. Jaden Bradley has always shown that his high level of intelligence on the basketball court, his anticipation, his instincts, like he's always been like that guy. And then Kharchenkov is where I'm going to go to next before we get to Bradley, because I said Kharchenkov was going to probably get the start if you're looking at the matchups, because ADO against Hauk is not a great matchup for you to start. And so I thought it would make sense that Kharchenkov would get the start. And he exactly did get the start. And I thought, again, the moment wasn't too big for him. I said, and Tommy repeated it in the postgame, I said playing over in Europe and playing in those championships and the crowds that come over there would prepare him for what he would see in environments that are hostile in college athletics. And sure enough, night one, big stage, it didn't look like it just looked like another game for him. It didn't seem like the moment was too big for him. He had a couple big time threes in the first half that really helped Arizona kind of stay in the game and also take the lead. I just thought his overall performance was really solid. 12 points, 10 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 for 2 from 3. Just a good all around performance.
I'm going to do something that's rather unfair. I'm going to break his game down. Now, he had 12 points. 4 of them were from the free throw line. One of them was a wide open skip 3 that he knocked down, and the other was a garbage step back 3 with the shot clock winding down. And he had a lot of cojones and knocked that one down too. So his 2 threes were still threes. They count. One of them was just a bailout 3, but it went in. But forget all that. He was 3 for 9 from the floor, which isn't great, but it isn't bad. He had 10 rebounds. That's insane. He had 10 boards. So when you get 12 and 10, and he really didn't have a great night shooting, he was 3 for 9. So he still he got to the free throw line. He was physical. He drew fouls. So I'm going to say there's still a lot more you can get out of him. And he played 35 minutes, which is a lot of minutes for a first game as a freshman. But he showed some experience. He showed some mental toughness. What I'd like to see more, the only critique I have on him is defensively, but it's not even a fair critique because this was his first go round. Lots of defensive errors from the Arizona perimeter guys. We won't even get into that. Guys were getting the whole guy off the dribble. They weren't containing very well at all the first 12 minutes of the game. But that's to be expected with freshmen. But I am thoroughly impressed with the game he played. I think 12 and 10 is a hell of a line from a perimeter player against a team like Florida. I was sure that Arizona's backcourt was going to dominate Florida. I said it to a lot of people. People thought I was crazy, but I wasn't surprised. But the 10 boards, being active, being physical, being tough-nosed, that's huge.
It's big time. If I'd have told you that Brayden Burries and Mo Krivas were both going to score in single digits, would you have thought Arizona was going to win that game?
Not because of Burries, but because of Krivas, I would have thought it'd been tight for sure. 12 minutes, double digits from your 7-footer, that doesn't signal a good night.
But last week you talked about like a metric, a status that you felt like Arizona had to get to with the freshmen, and the freshman that you said was Koa, Brayden Burries, and Aristode. And between those 3, they needed to come up with 22 and 9, and you felt comfortable that if they got 22 and 9 combined, not individually, just if they all got 22 and 9, we're talking about a national championship type team, but 22 and 9 between the 3.
And I think we even discussed bumping it up to 25 and 10, but I just lowballed it because I want to release pressure. I don't want the fans on these kids if they don't give them 20 every night. But anyway,
for sure. But I think where I'm going with this is that Koa Peat got you damn near that by himself with 30 and 7. And then on top of that, you throw in Kharchenkov, and between those two, 42, was it 42? It's 17. That they almost doubled your proposed output by themselves, just those 2 guys. Brayden Burries didn't really do much at all last night. But the one thing I do want to bring up about Brayden Burries, I think the jitters got to him at first, and then he got in foul trouble. He could never get into a rhythm in the game. But the one thing that I did like that I kind of took away from the game was Jaden Bradley logs a lot of minutes, and you need somebody that's going to relieve the pressure. So he's not the one that always has to bring the ball up the court, because that will wear you down over the course of a season. Brayden, in the first iteration of the first half, did that plenty of times, whether it was a ball out of bounds or off a rebound or anything. He was the one that brought the ball up the court to get the offense initiated, which I like because it relieves the pressure. And Corey, in talking to some of the point guards that you played with, sometimes they just need a breather to not have to worry about how to beat their guy up the court every single time or how to get into an offense. Sometimes they just want to be the off guard just to kind of take a deep breath, because you rest on offense, you play hard on defense. That's kind of the coach speak, right?
True.
Did you see what did you see from Brayden Burries that you liked? Obviously, the foul trouble is going to be problematic if you can't stay out of foul trouble. But other than that, what did you like or not?
I won't say I didn't like anything. Let's explain and break down what happened. Burries got in his first collegiate game against number 3 Florida. And in the opening minutes of the game, he got hit on a back screen for a bucket. He got hit on a stagger screen and gave up a three. He was getting blown by defensively. He was trying to adjust. He only played 17 minutes and committed 5 fouls. And this is what I tell people. It is so much more difficult to play on the perimeter than it is on the post, especially if you're a freshman. When you're a big man, you don't have to worry about how fast somebody is or are you getting screened, or the big man comes down, he tries to post up, you play defense in the paint. But when you're on the perimeter, you're going through stagger screens, you're rotating, you're getting screened, you're hedging. You got to be off. If the ball's on the other side of the court, you have responsibilities. If you're a big man, it doesn't matter which side of the ball is on. You only have a 5-foot lane, a 10-foot lane to defend. So what he got exposed to and introduced to last night was high-level basketball, and it is defensive hell for perimeter players. It takes forever. Jaden Bradley will shoot the lane and get a layup, and that comes off thousands and thousands of hours of experience. He knows what's going to happen. Burries will get there, but it was a really rough night for him. I wasn't surprised to see the things he was going through. A top team like Florida is going to pick on your freshmen. The guys he was trying to guard had thousands of hours of game experience to his none. That was his first hour on the job. So you shake it off, you show him a few things, and you keep his confidence level high, and you try to get him the minutes. The 5 fouls in 17 minutes, that's a freshman trying to keep up with the speed and the complexity of perimeter play at that level. You got to grab, you got to reach, you're out of position. These are probably things that never happened to him in high school or AAU, and they happened to him, and they kept happening so fast. It's just every freshman goes through that, and I wasn't surprised to see it, but I know he'll bounce back.
For sure. No, I have no doubt that he'll bounce back. Like, listen, you got to affect the game somehow, some way, right? And I think he did that to a small degree because he only played 17 minutes, but he did have an impact in the game. Listen, Florida knew that they had to account for him, so that's an impact by itself. But on top of that, like, defensively, like, did you progressively get better as the game went on? And I did feel like he did that. And I think that when you're looking at, before we get to Jaden Bradley, when we're talking about the pick and roll that Florida loves to run, right? Like they did that. It felt like every other possession, right? What was happening in the first 10 minutes, and I tried to take screenshots, but listen, HBO Max won't let you take screenshots. This is crazy, right? What was happening was there was far too much room on these screens from the picker. And sometimes they'd lay the body on them. Sometimes they'd kind of flash and then roll. And it didn't matter which one it was. Arizona guards were just really delayed on getting over the top of that screen. The bigs weren't hedging as much. And then as the game went on, that room got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The hedges came out. They start forcing them all the way closer to half court to initiate those pick and rolls instead of right at the top of the 3-point line. They didn't let those guys get a full head of steam to the basket, as opposed to giving them, all types of room. And so it became a little bit more of a physical game. And once that happened, the scoring started to slow down a little bit for Florida, and Arizona was able to, kind of jump back on top. Either way, the defense in the first half wasn't the greatest from either team. 50-46 at halftime is a lot of points, no matter which way you want to slice it. But I did think that Arizona progressively got better as the game went on defensively, and you could see why they could be a very tough team to beat this season.
Well, the other thing was, it was a brick fest for Florida, plain and simple. They were 7 of 27. They 25% from 3. And the longer you start hoisting up bricks, the more difficult it is for you to try to get things going. And Arizona was able to latch on to that. The fact that they were struggling from the field, it makes your defense better. You have to lock in and guard guys because nobody's hitting threes. So when you see a ball screen, we can go under. If you get a closeout, I can step back. That lack of a perimeter shot did make Florida more predictable down the stretch and made Arizona's defense more formidable. So it all is interconnected. But you're right. I did see improvement There was too many easy lanes to the basket to start the game. And as the game wore on, Arizona was good at taking that stuff away.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now let's get to Jaden Bradley. Listen, Jaden, we've talked about on this pod, like, I'm America's probably number one Jaden Bradley fan, outside of his mom and dad. I think, and it's not because of his performances. It's just because of the way he carries himself on the court. He leads by example. And last night, again, here's the senior leadership you're talking about. When it looked like the game could start to go either way, who's the one that stepped up? I know Koa Peat got all the love, but Jaden Bradley had some killer buckets down the stretch. I mean, a one leg leaner fadeaway off the glass, couldn't stop it. And it looked like it was just easy for him at that point. Jaden Bradley continues to impress. And listen, I just want to I want to go through a list here in a second that shows you how atrocious some people's ratings are. But Jaden Bradley's overall performance was fantastic. And Tommy Lloyd had this to say about said player.
Okay, the Hall of Fame's awesome, but how in the world do they not have Jaden Bradley as one of the top 20 point guards in the country? And you guys know I don't mess with these lists that much, but in JB, and I talk about it a little, but JB's a guy that he doesn't need anything extra. He doesn't take up any extra space in the room than he has to. He's always leaving room for his teammates to be special. And at the end of the day, he's just a get it done type of guy. So, I hopefully, I know there's add-ons to that list, but if there's any way this guy's not one of the top, 2 or 3 point guards in the country, I've been doing this for a while, and then they don't make him much better than this. So he was amazing today, and then, obviously you say the same for Koa. Koa, it was a coming out party for him, so to speak. Everyone's known about him, but no one's really studied him and watched him, and he's a special player. Just the way he came out in that atmosphere, and he went against the first team All-American, and that kid's a heck of a player, and Koa obviously more than held his own. So, we're proud to call these guys Wildcats, and it was a great night for Arizona basketball.
It was a great night for Arizona basketball, but, obviously Tommy said it all when he said it. Jaden Bradley is one of the best, not even just point guards. He's one of the best players in the country. And the disrespect is very real, Corey.
Well, I'm very, when it comes to things like this, I tend to not mix words. I don't even think it's disrespect. I think it's just flat out ignorance. One of the things I like to do is I always read the media on both sides. And I'm reading articles on the Miami Herald today, and they're recapping the game, and they're talking about, it's still figuring things out and tinkering things, and we got to get a lineup, and they got to establish chemistry and all the BS stuff that people talk about when their team loses. Because I was hearing that Florida was definitely going back for a national championship. They replaced the 2 NBA guards that left and went on to the pros. They've got all these things, all this NIL money, the best front court in the country, yada, yada, yada. But, we got to give it time, and guys got to get their chemistry. And they're trying to put a positive spin on the fact that Jaden Bradley cooked your backcourt. Cooked them. You don't want to give the kid any respect. You want to act like he wasn't a good player last year. And then at the bottom of the article, it didn't help that Jaden Bradley went for 27. No, you don't say. 10 straight points with no ball screen. Cooking the hell out of the 2 transfer portal guys you got that you think are going to help you dominate the SEC. You didn't have one person that could stay in front of them. So what you tell yourself and what reality is, and this is where Tommy Lloyd's trying to say, you can write whatever you want. You can make whatever list you want to make. Somebody going to have to stand in front of Jaden Bradley and shut him down, and I ain't seen nobody that can do it in a long time, bro. And that goes back to last year, too. So I'm a huge Jaden Bradley fan, but I'm also a basketball person. I know hoopers when I see them. And I know keyboard gangsters and people who write websites and don't know nothing and they never played and they doing it for clicks and views. But we don't need no clicks and views when somebody puts 27 on your head, when somebody gets all the way to the cup and just does a finger roll from point blank range because nobody can stop them. That's what I saw last night. Now, you can spin it however you want, but the bottom line is you don't have those 2 guys in your backcourt. And we have a kid in our backcourt who was a starter last year. If you don't think that makes a difference when it comes down to what my high school coach used to call nut cutting time, you don't know basketball because the ball was in his hands and you saw what he did with it. And when the ball was in your backcourt guys' hands, y'all was 7 of 27 from 3. So, you know, you can tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself as you climb into bed and get your Z's. And I get it. It's just one game. Somebody had to win that game and somebody had to lose that game. And for either team, your season isn't over. There's no harm in playing that game. That's why you play it. But you want to sit here and talk about all the things that Florida could have done and should tweak and this and that. I'm sorry. Did a freshman who never played college ball before cook you for 30 and get like 3 dunks? Did that happen against the top backcourt in the country? I saw that too. So they're not going to say it was bad Florida, but they damn sure aren't giving the Wildcats credit for what happened, because when Florida was up 12, everybody was like, this is how it should be. And I know I'm ranting a little bit here, Saul, but stay with me.
No, you're good.
I got ticked off when I'm watching the broadcast. I'm like, Saul, you ever walk into a room and everybody quiet and you know it's a setup and you like something's off? I looked at the broadcast team for TNT. You got Bruce Pearl up there with Mashburn, all SEC slant broadcast. That game was supposed to be the ceremonial ass whooping of the SEC's top team against a mid-level team from the Big 12. This was their little coming out, look how dope we are broadcast for the SEC on TNT, which is in Atlanta, I believe. Come on, bro. It was a setup. And then all of a sudden in halftime, oh, this game is, you know, Arizona. Then at the end, everybody had Koa Peat in their mouth. You ain't had Koa Peat in your mouth in the pregame. You ain't had Koa Peat in your mouth 2 weeks before. This game been on the schedule for months. So you got to call it how it happens. You and I will be here all year saying the good, the bad, and the ugly about Arizona basketball. But we ain't never going to be fake, and we ain't never going to tilt a broadcast to make something look like what it wasn't. So for me watching that game last night, I totally get where Tommy Lloyd's coming from. You have your little national list. You have your little TNT broadcast. You got Jamal Mashburn on there with Bruce Pearl, SEC, and you got kicked in your teeth. We're not going to talk about that? I'm going to talk about it. And that's all I have to say.
That's all I got to say about that. Listen, man, you said it all. I don't know, from the casual observer and the basketball lover that I am, I would think it's a little bit easier to transition transfers into your program than freshmen, because freshmen have never seen what college basketball looks like. And I'm sorry, the starting 5 for Arizona had 3 freshmen. Florida had 2 transfers that have produced at high levels at their previous school. I don't think that's the excuse you want to go with if you're a Florida fan. Like, oh, well, it's going to take some time. Arizona needs some time for chemistry too. And it's probably a steeper level. And they made it look easy at points with 2 of the 3 at least. So they can miss me with that stuff, because that SEC stuff. Now, I will also say this to Bruce Pearl's credit, in the post game last night, as they were talking about, like, each one of them had to give a major prediction, right? Bruce Pearl said that he understands that there's a lot of SEC love, and last year he thought the SEC had the toughest conference in America, which they probably did. But he said straight up, the Big 12 might be the best conference in America now, because you're looking at Kansas is in the middle of the preseason rankings at 6 or 7. Arizona is at 4, but are they at 4 though? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why the preseason rankings don't matter. And I'm just going to prove that, because Evan Mia does great work analytically. And preseason wise, this was his ranking for all the top 6 Arizona players, and it's not pretty. He had Jaden Bradley at 35, Toby Awaka at 56, then Brayden Burries at 153, Koa Peat at 164, Anthony Del Orso at 187, and Mo Krivas at 253. This is the top 450 players in the country, and this is where he had them. He doesn't even have Kharchenkov on the list. And so, like, when you look at this and you're like, okay, I don't know what metrics you're using, my guy. And I understand that some of these guys are freshmen, and Koa Peat is a freshman. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't put anything on paper. But he did have like 3 other freshmen in the top 8 in the country on that list. So however he manipulated this ranking, you might need to go back to the Princeton library that Xavier League just came from to kind of recalculate all that, because it ain't working. It ain't working.
Well, I love being an analyst because I get to sit there and watch the game, and I only have to talk about the game. I don't have to produce content throughout the week, and I'm not casting any aspersions, but I think if you looked at his list and you linked it to how many social media followers each player has, then the list may start to make sense. And that's all I'm going to say. You're ranking people based on, getting the controversy swirling, getting shares, likes, clicks, and views, or you ranking people off actual basketball knowledge. And I don't know the person of which you speak, so I'm not saying they don't know. What I'm saying is when the AP poll drops next week, it's going to be a lot of movement, everybody trying to catch up and reform their opinions, because that's what they are, opinions. Yeah. And everybody has a right to their opinion. I was wrong about a lot of things when we and I talked last week about this game. I did not think, there's no way I thought Koa Peat was going for 30. I did not think that. I knew Arizona's backcourt was going to outperform theirs. I was surprised and impressed that 3 people, Awaka, Krivas, and Peat, well, along with Kharchenkov, out-rebounded Florida by like 12. That wasn't supposed to happen. No one's talking about the big bad front court that got out-rebounded by Arizona. The big tough SEC team. Huh?
Let's talk about that front court battle.
Yeah. I mean, these are things that happen. So everybody's going to be trying to backtrack and spin and readjust their stances, when the true thing is, hey, call it like you see it, and then follow the game. And a lot of times you save yourself some headache if you just absorb what you're watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Arizona was very good up front. And again, to go back, they left a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah.
A, they're going to be able to clean up their stuff defensively. B, you can't expect Brayden Burries, Mo Krivas, Anthony Del Orso to not contribute offensively a little bit more as you move forward. You got to assume that that's going to happen at some point. I think the more pressure and the more attention that goes to Koa Peat will free up Mo Krivas, Tobe Awaka, the perimeter players. I think these are all good signs, because you didn't play your most elite offensive game as a unit. No, you had a couple guys that stood out. Everybody else chipped in, sprinkled in some here and there, and it got you over the finish line. That's it. Arizona has so much room for potential if you just watch what you saw last night and understand that the road ahead is filled with opportunities to improve. Well, you got Utah Tech and NAU before you got to go play UCLA on the road in LA. And then you got to turn around and play UConn in UConn. You got opportunities to be able to improve.
I agree with you. I agree with you, because remember we talked about last week, shooters are a byproduct of basketball action. And I asked the question, can Arizona get to a pick your poison type of offense? And I'm going to say something and do something I normally don't do, but I'm going to declare it right now. Saul, we are already there. Koa Peat put the entire country on notice last evening that if you try to play me one-on-one, I'm probably going to cook that guy. Now, every coach knows we got to come with a double. We got to come with a zone. The tables are now set up for other guys to get looks off of the respect that Koa garnered last night. It's just inevitable. That's what good basketball coaches are going to do. So Arizona is at a critical point. Now it's time for Delly to knock down threes. Now it's time for Burries to find his rhythm. Now it's time for Mo to get some drop-off dunks and some high lows, because they're doubling Koa. Because the one time Florida doubled him last night, he turned it over. He went into a trap, went on his heels, threw a weak pass. Florida took it, went down and scored. So he's going to see more of that. Coaches would be fools to not try to slow him down, because out of the pick and roll at the high post, he's got the jumper. He can blow by fours. He even can hold his own on the post up. They were trying to bang Koa and back him down, and he's built like a brick house. They couldn't move him. Then when they went to shoot, he jumps up and blocks his shot. So he's good in the post defensively. There's nobody that's taking him nowhere. So you've got a serious problem. And I'm going to tell you one other thing before I stop ranting. I had serious Derrick Williams flashbacks watching Koa Peat last night.
Ooh, okay.
The dunks, the athleticism, the shot blocking, the vibe, kind of like, damn, it's a guy out there that's kind of, I don't want to say man among boys because it's only been one game, but it's a dude out here who's making this look easy and no one can stop him. That was Derrick Williams the second half of his final season. He was that guy. Like, no one could stop him. There's nothing anybody could do. Koa Peat showed you the whole package. He was physical, he rebounded, he defended, and he got tired. And that mini collapse that Arizona had the final couple minutes of the game where things got real shaky and they were turning it over and Florida had 2 threes and a chance to tie it up, that was fatigue. That's 36 minutes on Bradley, 37 minutes on Koa Peat. You know, you needed one other guy with some gas in the tank to make sure, and Arizona was able to get out of that spot. But that was just fatigue. I mean, the game was almost over and guys were dead tired. Those were mistakes that you didn't see happen in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the press, listen, they're going to work on that press. I promise you that in practice, because that was a little rough. If you ask me, you mentioned the freshman, the production earlier. Tommy actually was on the Field of 68 pod. And he had some interesting things to say about not only the freshmen, but the program as a whole.
And, I knew the core group of freshmen we could bring here. And I was like, I don't think I can get better transfers than these guys. So why would I make it complicated? And, and these really good young high school players got to go somewhere. And, one of the places that they've always went, Arizona. I mean, under Lute, under Sean. So, I'm like, well, that formula is right here. What I love about our team in this age of transfer portal and NIL, this is an Arizona team, Jeff, that this is what an Arizona team would have looked like when you were here. Yeah. A couple of elite freshmen, that are going to have long careers and play 82 game seasons. Some veterans that know what Tucson's about, know what University of Arizona is about, and they blood, sweat, and tears. And they're also really good players who probably will play 82 game schedules as well. So I was like, that's why I feel I slept really good. I felt really good when everyone's trying to, kind of manufacture, these short-term identities. Like, I think we have a real identity, and now we got to double down on it, and you got to fight for it all the time.
What's the identity, Tommy? Tommy, what is it?
Well, the identity is you're gonna build your team with a mix of savvy veterans who value and know what Arizona basketball means, and when they put that jersey on, they know what it takes to get it done. And then you're gonna get some elite young guys, who have big dreams, but they're also good dudes and good team players, and you're gonna put it together, and you're gonna build a great team.
It's funny because I thought the point about why would I go out and get a transfer if I have freshmen that I feel like can match, if not exceed, that level of production from a transfer. And then the point about, obviously, listen, Lute he was not scared to schedule tough games in the non-conference. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about what Tommy Lloyd has done, is he brought that back, because Sean Miller was – there were seasons where it wasn't quite as aggressive as you'd like to see in the non-conference. It didn't really matter too much for Sean Miller because he still got the same level of production in the tournament as Tommy did. So it's whatever you like, but these wins matter to the fan base. And it's a good test, and it's a good litmus test to figure out what your team is really made of. So especially for freshmen to figure out what they're capable of. I thought that was a really good point.
Well, it's a great point, because right now what you have in 2025 is very simple and clear choice for all college coaches. You can go get an employee that's going to show up for work, or you can go get a kid that's chasing a dream. You tell me who's going to play harder. You tell me who's going to buy into the concepts better. You tell me who's going to be listening and be me a little bit more coachable. You tell me who's going to receive information as a fresh imprint versus a kid that's had 2, maybe even 3 coaches. I'm not knocking the portal. It is what it is. But I do see a very mercenary attitude from a lot of young players Where can I go to get the most money? And I get it. And I'm not even really mad about that. But all of that is so diametrically opposed to chemistry. And at the end of the day, the team that cuts down the nets is the team that has chemistry. It's never the most talented team in the country. So the fan bases have to ask themselves, are we going to go gaga over transfer portal recruits, or do we want to win? Because I'd rather win. You can coach a 7 to play like a 9. It happens all the time. You can get a transfer portal 8 that plays like a 6. This is why coaches get paid the big bucks. I love Tommy's idea. I love the way he brings guys in. They buy into the team, and it starts with him. His personality, he's an honest guy. What he says on the recruiting trail is reality when you get to Tucson. And people don't understand how often that's not the case at blue chip programs. So he's got a winning formula. Arizona's got a great tradition. You're going to be told the right thing. You're going to be given all the resources to be successful. And you're going to have nationally televised games where you get to show off. Come to Arizona. You know who we play. You sitting at home on TV watching this. You want to be on this stage. We got the stage. You bring the talent and the effort. We'll take care of everything else. That's a great winning formula for Arizona basketball.
It is. It is. And to Bill's point, yeah, Tommy gave Jeff Goodman some ish at the beginning of that interview for sure, because he felt like the disrespect was real on that field of 68, and not just by Goodman though, but
I mean, Saul, you raise teenagers. Sometimes they come in the house and you look at them and you be like, they just don't know. You know, I'm not going to jump on because they don't know. They're walking around here acting like they know, but they don't know.
Well,
it's a big country and there's a lot of teams, and I'm an analyst and I love just focusing on the games that I have, but I try to soak in as much as some people just don't know.
But listen, man, like, you can't. Okay, listen, in the offseason, it wasn't Jeff Goodman, but it was the other guy. I forgot. I think his name's Jensen or something like that. Guy said that Arizona had the worst offseason of any program. And I'm sitting here like, the worst offseason? What? They got 2 McDonald's All-Americans. What's the problem here? If it was Duke, you'd be like, oh, they just reloaded. But it's Arizona, and now you just want to trash them. Come on, man. That's
we live in the FanDuel prize pick era where everybody wants to gamble. I'm going to shake the dice and throw out my position at the beginning of the year and hope I hit. That's what they're doing. Yeah. Everybody's got it. And the crazy thing is so many people do it. You can totally backtrack and change your take and no one will even notice. But everybody wants to be right. And I love watching, side note, I love watching Monday morning on ESPN because everybody's reviewing the Sunday football games that they got wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's just what people do. They try to predict the playoffs. They try to predict the Final Four. They try to predict the Masters. Everybody's trying to predict everything. And I'm a person that just likes to watch the games, enjoy what I'm seeing, and give credit where credit is due. And I didn't know Arizona was going to win that game. I didn't know Arizona was going to out-rebound Florida. I didn't know Koa Peat was going to go for 30. I didn't know Florida was going to go 7 for 27. I didn't know Florida's bigs, who were supposed to be the biggest front court in the nation, were going to get fouled out of the game, beat on the glass, and literally have their jerseys ripped off their body. That's what happened last night.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say that. I didn't think Arizona was going to win that game. I thought that was a tough test in the first game of the season, based on what I saw in the exhibition. I was like, oh, this might be a tough one. But very happy to be wrong on that one. You mentioned a little comparison with Koa Peat and Derrick Williams earlier. Kevin Thomas, our guy behind the Mac, he actually has a stat right here, and it's. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so this is from our guy Burries Muse on Twitter. He does really good statistical stuff. He tracks a ton of stuff for Arizona basketball, but he put together not only the stats but the advanced analytics for the performances, and they had some pretty eerie similarities between the dominance that Derrick Williams put up against Duke in the Sweet 16 and what Koa Peat did last night against Florida.
That's fantastic. I mean, look, the offensive rating is off the charts for both. I mean, from top to bottom, there's a lot of green on there. But Koa overall the slightly better efficient game, although Derrick Williams did have 32 and 13 against Duke, the hated Duke Blue Devils. But man, 37 and 5 is just such a phenomenal start to your college career. You can't be you can't be more than happy about that.
Two other things I want to point out. The biggest thing that I got excited about was, one, it was the only national game. It was the only game on that night. Everybody in the country was watching it, including the referees. I will say that again, including the officials. They're people too. And if you wasn't giving us no respect before, guess who's getting to the free throw line every time he gets downhill and gets some contact? Mr. Bradley. Guess who's getting to the free throw line? Koa Peat. Guess who's going to be allowed to bang and play physical? Arizona. Because we set the tempo. This is who we are. You've seen us on TNT. Now you have our game. Don't come out here with no garbage calls trying to treat like we some whack team from the Big 12. We took down number 3. We don't have to seek respect anymore. It's ours until we give it up. That was the huge thing that I loved about that win, because we live in a world of people and people are imperfect. And sometimes people are like, yeah, Jaden Bradley normally makes that. That's a foul. That's just the nature of the game. It happens. The ball tends to bounce your way the more people respect you and appreciate you. But here's the other thing for Arizona fans that they have to realize. 57 points from Koa Peat and Jaden Bradley, that ain't going to happen again. It's just not. I'm racking my brain. Well, I take that back. Maybe against Utah Tech or one of these little non-serious conference games that they got coming up between now and the end of the year. But against Auburn, against UCLA, against UConn, and then you're not going to get 57 from the two of them. I just have a hard time seeing that. So it was what we needed to get the dub. But if people are like, oh, he scored 30 against Florida, he should be able to do that against everybody. No, that's not how it goes, bro.
Here's a thought and a feeling I have about Koa Peat after last night. I've seen Koa Peat play multiple times, and let's just say, and I'm really interested to see these next stretch of games to see if this really bears out. I think against what they know to be inferior competition, he's not going to be as aggressive as he was last night. I think he likes to get everybody involved as much as possible, because he knows that the long-term play is the better everybody else is, the better I will be. Right. And I saw that in high school. When they were playing against Basha last year, it's literally right across the street from my house. I went over and took a look, and it was clearly evident that Perry was the better team. And Koa just was not very aggressive in that game. He took his opportunities here and there, but he more was just facilitating, getting everybody else involved, playing within himself. That's the thing about Koa Peat, is he plays within himself. And last night, there was a point where Arizona was kind of like trying to feel themselves out, and it was a little sketchy. The lead was starting to get away from him, and he got a little aggressive. And when he got aggressive, he got into Condon's chest, turned around, hit a little jumper, and I felt like, and I said, Steve Rivera was sitting right next to him, and I was like, he needs to do more of that, and I hope he does, because the more aggressive he is, the better it's going to be. And it was like he was off to the races after that. He didn't really defer too much if it was unnecessary, but he still made the right play at just about every turn. He hit the kick out 3 to Kharchenkov when everything was kind of chaos around him. He was still settled within himself. And that's the thing about Koa Peat that I've always liked in watching his game. He never feels like he's out of control. He never feels like he's ahead of himself. He just is really cerebral and calm and make sure that he makes the right play. And that's the same thing Jaden Bradley is. That's the same thing Kharchenkov is. It just feels like this is kind of team that's a little bit more stable than maybe we've had in the past.
Well, what helps with stability is, like you said, a rising tide lifts all boats. I remember, I think maybe I averaged 10 points as a senior at Arizona. I interviewed with 6 NBA teams. I don't even think I was averaging double digits, because I was on a team that was nationally ranked for the majority of my college career. And what you have to understand, even with like a Brayden Burries, it's like, oh, I didn't score any points. Bro, you're getting 25, 30 minutes on a nationally ranked team. You could be at some other school getting all the minutes and points in the world, but at the end of the day, you want to be here in the big heavyweight bouts, the main events, Las Vegas, Los Angeles. You want to be playing in these games with that Arizona on your chest, because 12 points that you score for one of the top coaches in the country and Tommy Lloyd, it's different than 25 points you score for somebody else.
Yeah,
it just is. So these guys understand there's no panic. Even JB out front knows his path to the NBA isn't 25 points a game. It's being the starting point guard on a Final Four team. That's his goal. So he's going to spread the ball around, do what he's got to do. So at the end of the game, when we glance up at the scoreboard, we have more points than you. Let's go get on the plane. Another win for Arizona. All these guys benefit from the team's success. So I think Tommy Lloyd will use the game coming up Friday to get some of the guys, Burries included, get them right. Toby got cheated out of a game because of foul trouble. He only played 16 minutes? The strongest player on your team was only on the court for 16 minutes and you still beat Florida? Yeah. So get Toby in a rhythm. You're going to use these other games and they're going to come out and want to post 20-point victories, but I think you'll see his rotation favor the guys. You know, my grandmother used to say, you water the plants that need it. And I think that's what Tommy's going to be able to do with some of these games in between what I call the heavy hitter games.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. No, 1,000,000%. Listen, I probably feel as good about Arizona basketball and the way they're constructed right now than I have, honestly, in quite a while. Last year, I feel like when we looked at the vision board, we knew that there was some areas for concern, like pretty dramatically. This year, we were kind of, like not in the first iteration of the vision board. We just didn't know, right? Watching this first game, I feel like I have a much better picture and idea of where it could be. Now, the next 5 to 10 games, we'll kind of average that out, and we'll see what's really solid or what was just a one-game one-off. But I have a pretty good feeling because of the makeup of these individuals in terms of where they could potentially go. So that's good. Finally, to wrap it up, obviously we talked about the freshmen at length, but we do have a graphic about the freshmen and their production. And listen, the new kids on the block. I mean, Koa Peat with 30, Ivan Kharchenkov with 12, 10. Brayden Burries, listen, it's first game. A lot of things went against him. 3 points, 2 assists, 1 for 6, but you can expect that to improve by a mile. And Dwayne Aristode, 6 minutes, only got 1 rebound. With Aristode specifically, the one thing I'll say is, I said this last week, I just feel like it's going to take him some time to get a little bit more acclimated. He was, for lack of a better word, I think he was a little off and not as tightened up on the defensive end as you'd like to see. And offensively, I just didn't feel like he was really comfortable at all, because he still has to figure out his role and what he's going to be able to provide this team while also getting back into the groove of things. We have to remember he had the whole last year he was injured, and he's coming back into this and trying to get into form while playing at a high level against a team like Florida. That's a really, really tough ask. So I expect these next couple games against like Utah Tech and NAU for him to, like you said, get some water, to get fed, to get built back up. And then by the time we play UCLA in a week, maybe you see a little bit more production from him, a little bit more, focus and continuity from his end. So nothing to really be alarmed about with anybody that had a quote unquote bad game. Just a lot of good things to like about the guys that did have a good game, knowing that the back end is going to come up at some point.
And lastly, I want to just let all the Arizona fans out there know something, and keep this in mind, folks, because it's a very long season. Things will calm down. It's only natural. They will calm down. Koa is not going to average 25 for the season. Carter Bryant averaged 6 points and 4 boards a game and was a lottery pick. Just saying. He doesn't have to hit numbers. Don't go into these matches worried about numbers. If Koa Peat draws a double team and Del Orso hits 5 threes and Arizona wins, let's take it. If Koa Peat gets double teamed and Toby has 16 offensive we'll take it. If Krivas gets 20 and 10 because they're double teaming Del Orso or trapping Jake, we'll take it. I want this Arizona team to be a Swiss Army knife. That's my only goal. I do not care about points per game averages. I care about Arizona having a counter for everything the opposing coaching team try to do. That's the team that's going to make the deep run and have us all excited come March.
Yeah, I look at it from the John Wooden school. It's more of like, listen, I don't care if we win or lose. I care that we play the right way. And I think with this group of players, I think they embody that as much as any other group has. They want to make sure they make the right play. They don't need to be the superstar. They don't need to be the hero. They just need to do what's right on the court when asked. And I think every single one of them will do that at some point this year. And so, yeah, listen, I think Koa Peat would tell you, if I have 2 points and we go undefeated this year, do you think I care? No, because he's still going to be a top lottery pick because of everything that he's already shown and all his abilities, because he will have such an impact. Listen, you average 2 points a game and you're a lottery pick. It means you did so many other things at such a high level. Does it really matter what that says? No, it doesn't at all.
No.
So I agree with you, Corey.
And lastly, I played at Batavia High School, and my high school coach had a saying, and this is why Tommy gets paid the big bucks. He said, Corey, we're proud but humble. And that's Tommy's job. Take the confidence from beating Florida. Don't let it turn into cockiness. Keep them confident. We have our pride. Jaden Bradley has his pride. That was what was on display last night. His pride was hurt, and you saw how he responded. So we'll be prideful, but let's not get cocky and arrogant. Let's not live on Instagram and TikTok. Let's not care what people are saying, because there's a lot of people singing your praises today. But Tommy's job is to take the confidence, break down the film, keep building, keep them humble, keep them hungry.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Actually, Tommy was coming off the court last night, and I saw him, and I just said, "Hey, good game, coach." He was like, "Yeah, that's one of many." So,
Hey, I told you I wanted 3 out of 5. We got one.
Yeah,
we got one. We're on our way.
So, no, it was a great start to the season. It felt like a March Madness game in November. Listen, I got to be unbiased when I'm in the media section, and I'm watching these games.
You keep rubbing that in on the humble brag. I like what you're doing. You're making me and Kev feel bad.
I'm still sitting there with my hands, just like, come on now, but it's always good to see your alma mater come off and start the season as well as those guys did last night. So props to them, and props to you for joining us tonight on another edition of McKale Madness. We sure do appreciate you. And again, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you don't make it to one of these live shows, take a listen on the podcast side or watch the YouTube video later on. And as always, hit that like button on your way out and make sure you leave a comment. We do appreciate you. Go ahead.
Can I say one other thing? I need y'all to witness to other people that you're watching the show. You love Arizona basketball. When you hear your friends talking about it and they off track, witness. Tell them about the greatness of Saul and Corey, and get them to come watch the show and educate. It's like we're like a church. We want to be a mega church, Saul. We want all the Wildcats under one roof, understanding what's going on and feeling good. So witness McKale Madness to your friends. Repeat the things that we say. We want to hear what you have to say. We got to get the streets is talking back too, Saul. We got to do that.
Oh, we do have to do that. We need a name for the group is what we need.
All right, we'll come up with a name. We'll let the group name itself, but we're going to start. And we may even have gear. Who knows? We may come out with some gear. We identify the high IQ McKale Madness fans. We love it.
There you go. What we did in the military? We had coin checks. So maybe one of the things that we can do is we can make a show coin, and if you come up to us and you holler at us, we'll give you a coin, and that way we know that you're a member of the McKale Madness crew. We'd appreciate that.
I love that idea, brother. I love that idea.
There we go. As always, we appreciate y'all. Have a good rest of your week. And listen, this has been a phenomenal week so far with U of A football kicking the absolute snot out of Colorado and the potential to go to a bowl if they win against Kansas on Saturday. We got Utah Tech on Friday night. Hey, let's make this a hell of a week. Bear down as always. We love y'all. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.